Hi students, in this video we will be learning about how to create ledger and we have just started the topic accounting cycle, and in accounting cycle we will be learning about ledger today. In the last video we learned about journal, so let's see how the ledger work. Before we start today's topic, students, the definition of accounting is the process of analyzing, recording, classifying, summarizing, and reporting the financial transactions. So I repeat again, accounting is the process of analyzing. Analyzing mean the step number one, we identify the accounts which are involved in the transaction. So this procedure start from here, the step number one, financial transaction. Once the financial transaction is done, we identify the account. The second job is to record. So where do we record transaction? We record it in journal. The third point, to classify. We are going to learn about classification of account, and that is done in ledger, which is step number 3 of accounting cycle. This diagram tells us about accounting cycle. What about the fourth and fifth point? These topics we will learn in the coming video. The step number 4, we summarize our account, and that is done in trial balance. And finally, the reporting, which means the financial statements. Do not forget, the purpose of the business is to make profit, but the job of accounting is to calculate the profit. So being an accountant, our job is to tell business how much profit they are making or how much loss they are suffering, if there is any loss. So a quick recap: we learned about the journal in the last class, and there were the four rules that we learned in the last lesson. The increase in asset, debit; decrease in asset, credit. All expenses on debit side, all incomes are recorded on credit side. Liabilities, if they are increasing, recorded on credit side, but if they decrease, we record these liabilities on debit side. And also the format is very important, so make sure you draw it, you save it, and you remember it. And students, today we are going to see how what are the ledgers. So students, ledgers has this is the format of ledger. So ledger has two sides. One is debit and one is credit. So it start the first column, date, then details, and the debit side. So this portion belongs to debit side. And then again for credit side, we have date, details, and credit side. On the top of the ledger, we have to write the account title that I will tell you later. This is also called ledger. It is called T account. So T account is the short form, or short, we can say that we can draw the ledger in a short way in order to do things quickly. So we call these accounts T accounts. If we are practicing, we can draw ledgers like this as T account, but in real world or in examination, we actually follow the proper format. In IGCSE, they provide us the format on paper, but being good accounting students, you should know how the ledger look like and you should draw that. Okay, let's begin without wasting any time. So students, this is the first transaction. On 1st January 2020, Mr. A started business with cash. So the step number 1, identify the account. We know that in this transaction there are two accounts. One is the cash account and the second one is capital account. So I'll draw this transaction. I'll just record that transaction in journal, 1st January 2020, and the debit account is cash because asset is increasing with 10,000, and the credit account is capital. So I will record it on the credit side. And after that we just write down the narration, and the narration is started business with cash. So students, this is the step we have done. So we recorded the transaction in journal. After recording the transaction in journal, the next step is to put the transaction in ledger. So remember that students, as many accounts we have in journal, we should have as many ledgers as well. For example, the two accounts we have here, the one is cash account and the second one is capital account. So I am going to create two ledgers there. So I will just give the title here. The first account is cash and the second account is capital. So I'll just create capital here. So if I show you in the beginning, so the first step is the account title. One more thing you should remember, that if we have made one ledger, we don't need to repeat if that account comes again in the transaction. For example, cash account, we will only create one time. If later on, if there is any transaction of cash, we will not create again, but we will record that transaction in this account only. So now how to record it? Be careful and listen carefully. So students, in this transaction, the cash is on the debit side. So it means that in the cash account, this should be written on the debit side. And step number 2, the date. The date is 1st January 2020. Now, the most important thing is detail. The detail is always the other account, which means we got this cash and the reason is capital. So we write the reason here, and the reason should always be the other account. And in this transaction, the other account is capital. Now, if we go to the capital account, so in this capital account, again the same process, the capital is on the credit side. So I will write it on the credit side. Now I will put the date 1st January 2020, and I will write the reason. And can you guess the reason? What is the reason? Yes, it is the cash. So cash is the reason to increase in our capital. Good job. One more example. On 3rd January, he bought goods and paid check. So in this transaction, as we are buying goods, so buying good goes to purchases account and we are paying by check. So it will go to bank account. So the transaction will be the date 3rd January 2020. The reason is purchases. Purchases are always debit, the 1000, and the credit is bank because money is going out. So now if I create the ledger, so I have to create two more ledgers again. The first one is purchases. Here I will write purchases, and the second ledger that I have to create, bank, because I created cash before. So cash is a different ledger than bank. So in this transaction, if you look at, the purchases are on debit side, so I'll write the date 3rd January 2020. The amount will be written 1000 and the reason is bank. And in the purchases, in the bank account, the money is going out, so it will be written on the credit side and the reason is purchases. I'll give you one more tip here. If you are making for example any account, that account will not be written inside it. For example, purchases account, so purchases will never come here. This is bank account. Bank will not come here because that will not be considered a transaction. So bank will not come there ever. Another transaction, on 5th January, he paid salaries by check. So salaries we are paying. So salaries are our expenses. Salary is our expense. So I'll just write the date here, 5th January 2020. The salaries account debit because expenses are always debit, 250. And as we are paying by check, so the bank account will be credit. So now I have not created salaries account. So here I will create one more ledger account, same thing. So salaries here in this account, the salaries are debit with 250. The date is 5th of January 2020 and the reason is bank. Reason is always the other account. Now for bank, this is another transaction for bank and we have created bank already, so we don't need to create it again. So instead I'll go to my bank account. I will write the date here, 5 January 2020, and the reason is salaries by 250. So you saw that I did not create another bank account. So bank account one time. If any transaction will come, it will go there. Let's see one more transaction. On 10th January, he sold goods for cash for 500. So date is 10th January. So I'll write date 10th January 2020, and this is sales and cash. So sales is our income. We always know that sale is income. Income is always credit. So I will write 500 on credit side, and I will write sales here, and debit is cash because we are receiving cash by selling goods. So sales will be credit and cash will be debit because our asset is increasing. So sale account we have not created yet. So okay, fine. I'll create it now. So I'll just put here sales account. Sale is always on the credit side and the date is 10th January 2020, and the reason is cash. Now I have recorded this transaction one time in sales. Now I have to record it in cash account. So as I said, I have already created cash account, so I will not create it again. Instead, I will go to my cash account here in the first transaction. So here, as I received cash for 500, let me check if it was 500. Yes, it is 500, and the date was 10th of January 2020, and the reason was sales. So sales will be written here. So if you look at the cash account, I did not create it one more time. So student, this is how we record the transactions in ledger, and this method is called classification of account, where we classify our accounts. I'll just highlight it that we learned. So in the next lesson, we will be learning about how to balance the ledger. That is very important topic. So in the next lesson, we will talk more about ledgers and how to balance ledger. But do not forget to subscribe and like, because this channel will bring entire IGCSE accounting syllabus for you. So you don't need to go to tuitions or anything. Just watch the videos when you have free time. So that's why I'm trying to just keep the videos as small as possible. Or you can increase speeds to watch it quickly. Thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.